First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I work, play and live, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging. I will admit I did chuckle to myself when I realised I'd be doing a 15-minute presentation on a meeting the afternoon on the third day of a conference, so I have included some bush poetry for your entertainment. How does this relate, you probably ask? Well, you'll just have to wait and see. Before I get into the rest of my presentation, I just wanted to pause on the photo that I have up on the screen for a moment. A mate of mine and I took this photo on the way to Corumba. As an artist in mind, but sadly not in application, I just simply had to have Greg take a picture of what you see here, as it is quite remarkable. I like to think of all of the termite mounds as representing every individual who contributes and participates as a part of our clinical chapters or any collaborative meeting for that matter. By nature, each of us comes to the table as individuals, but there is no escaping the reality that we are all stuck in a massive paddock in a difficult landscape in the middle of nowhere. This photo was taken where an extraordinary number of mounds were congregating together in a small space, almost as if these termite colonies' survival depended on being in close proximity to one another. So why form a clinical chapter? As a PHN, we are required to have our clinical and consumer councils, but we have opted to run HHS region-based clinical chapters, as well to help inform the broader view that the clinical council and consumer advisory councils tend to take. To achieve the highly ambitious goals that have been set by senior members of our local health sector, the community and the government, we need a mechanism to collaboratively plan and design services. As a PHN, we also needed to gain access to local knowledge to inform us of the health needs of the community and how these health needs can be met by sharing them with each other. By sharing the strengths and weaknesses of the local context and what worked and failed from previous healthcare reform strategies, we have a better view of what the future should look like. This organisational knowledge is priceless and something that all providers need to share with each other. We also needed a mechanism to disseminate activities that we conduct as a PHN. We tend to be a busy hive of bees buzzing around getting things done, but it may not be obvious to see from the outside. The chapter also serves as a way of disseminating information of shared interest to one another. So what is a clinical chapter about? As per the terms of reference, the Northwest Clinical Chapter is a voluntary, collaborative and responsive group for healthcare in the region. Members work together to strengthen existing healthcare in the region, eliminate service duplication and build a sustainable and integrated system that places the patient at the centre of care. The clinical chapter is an advisory group to the PHN Clinical Council and the board. So who is involved? At the moment, our active membership base is made up of ourselves, Gidgee Healing, including Headspace, Northwest Hospital and Health Service, Micra, RFDS, Checkup, Mount Isa Medical Centre, Flinders Medical Centre, Northwest Remote Health, and Nookumara Alliance, represented by Quatsic and Gidgee Healing. Chapter membership is not exclusive to these organisations. The aim is to have more private practice GPs involved moving forward, as well as the addition of private allied health in the near future. To truly co-plan and co-fund services, we all need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak. A project undertaken by the PHN under the leadership of Rhonda Fleming, we have created for the first time ever in this region, to my knowledge, a shared health data portal. In phase 1, we will be providing access to our health partners and then expanding further access in phase 2. The platform is hosted within ClickSense and is updated when new data is released from the following sources: the ABS, the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, Queensland Health Chief Health Officer, the Australian Government's Open Data Portal, the Medicare Benefits Scheme, My Healthy Communities, Population Health Information Data Unit, the Queensland Government Statistician's Office, Queensland Hospital Admitted Patient Data Collection, and Western Queensland PHN collected data sets. The data is broken down into the following areas: population and social determinants, health status, population focus groups, and health service performance. Another collaborative venture has been the Child and Family Health Framework, which can be downloaded from our website, and the Mental Health, Suicide Prevention, Alcohol and Other Drugs Regional Plan was done so in collaboration with the members of our clinical chapters. Local projects that have grown out of joint collaboration and are regularly updated and reviewed through the chapter include the following: the Micro After Hours ED Presentations Project. The aim of this project was to develop a place-based approach for cross-service practice model of after-hours primary care service delivery, and to develop a framework for the development of after-hours services, make recommendations for the next steps in appropriate after-hours service delivery, and provide recommendations with regards to how to move towards implementation. You will hear more about this project in the next presentation. The Laura Johnson Home After Hours Project. The aim of phase 1 of this project was to investigate solutions to 2 identified issues, which were access to general practitioners after hours and disjointed and untimely information sharing between health providers. Betty Keenan will elaborate further later on in this session. And the Diabetes Collaborative, which Rhonda, Steph and Sarah presented yesterday. For these last slides, and I hope you don't mind indulging me, I wanted to provide a bit of a personal reflection first, as I think it's important for everyone to know the impact this latest achievement has had on the younger, up and coming generation, and I imagine will have on others who desperately want to see the health of our fellow Outback brothers and sisters improved. I was a doe-eyed 19-year-old when I arrived in Mount Isa 7.5 years ago. I've recently reflected on what brought me here and why I stay, particularly as the issue of recruitment and retention of staff continues to be a barrier in achieving our goals. This poem is called The Red Dirt Country Calls and describes my love story with the Northwest. When my soul was younger, I seemed to have a hunger, always yearning for a far-off distant place. Though I didn't know it then, she was patiently waiting for when I would trade the city bustle for a laid-back kind of pace. In a turmoil storming, at first a burden, then a warning, told me leave my kindred and make a beeline for the north. Unrequited for this love, sent to me from up above, she became more insistent, an unstoppable, jealous force. As a lover must, in her gentle calling I did trust, broke my heart to leave my hometown and the friends that I had there. So I drove out for days to meet her, and out of fear, I didn't cheat her. I drove on through the dark, dark night, dodging wildlife everywhere. And so it is said of high expectation, I didn't feel high elation when the dreams of rolling pastures were as dead as the red dirt sand. At first I was quite bitter, but I knew I wasn't a quitter, so instead I stayed resenting her hot and sparse dry land. For a time we both did live, I unable to forgive. A drawn-out silence grew between us as I brooded on my dreams. Sadness for what I'd left behind me, for a promise of love blindly, caused tears to flow unhindered, filling up the empty streams. But like the virgin sun in the morning, I could hear her again calling, lighting up a path for me to tell me I was hers alone. So at last I saw I had been wrong to deny her for this long, of the return of love eternal, and to call her as my home. As you can see, my journey here was pretty much on a whim and fairly rocky to start off with. It took some time to adjust, and I'm sure it is the case for many, but I want to pause and reflect on the last 2 lines in particular to help to make my point. So at last I saw I'd been wrong to deny her for this long, of the return of love eternal, and to name her as my home. For me, the decision to stay hinged on one thing, and it was the matter of a heart. Until I had fallen in love with this place, I resented living here. It was once I fell in love with the people, most importantly, that I had a true appreciation of what my new family needed. I personally focused on health needs, but there are of course many others. Once I'd made this place a home in my heart, I then invested myself into what needed to be done for her future. For years I remember being frustrated with the slow progress of change, to achieve what seemed unachievable. But it wasn't until the last 12 months did I see real evidence of substantial change on the horizon, which brings me to the tripartite agreement. Mel from Gidgee presented on it earlier this week, so I won't go into too much detail, but I can't stress enough how important it is to have a formal agreement in place between Northwest HHS, Gidgee Healing and the PHN. It is the first of its kind in our area and is a beacon of hope for many like myself who burn with passion to improve our lot. The Northwest Queensland region receives the highest per capita health funding of all regions in Queensland. However, the health status of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in the lower Gulf is worse than Indigenous people in other parts of Australia. Over the last 15 years, there have been a number of reforms, but no significant change to the service delivery system and no change to health outcomes. How can we achieve it? With the establishment of Northwest HHS and the PHN, still relatively a fledgling organisation in its own right, and the increased capacity of Gidgee Healing, the community-controlled health sector can lead the change in health service delivery at a local level. The result? Joint planning and working together better from here on in. So that's it for me. If you'd like to keep more up to date on the PHN's goings on, you can subscribe to our newsletter on our website and like our Facebook page. Thank you.